agency liaison, an agency liaison within the Wisconsin Bureau of Consumer Protection, located within the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. And we all agree that's one of the longest job titles ever. You should see my business cards. But we're here to talk about identity theft. And like I said earlier, not the most pleasant topic to talk about, but let's jump right in because I've got a lot of information to share with you today. Everybody should be able to see my presentation, I believe. And then we're going to monitor the chat for any questions, and we'll circle back at the end and grab those questions. So we're going to cover what is identity theft, how it happens, how these individuals steal our info, try to use our info against us. But then just bear with me, we will wrap it up at the end here with some things that you can actually do to protect yourself. Identity theft is still the fastest growing crime in the United States. There's a new victim every 2 seconds, and there's more money lost to identity theft than all other property crime put together. Just some daunting statistics. I'm sure everybody is sick and tired of those scam phone calls that you get, emails, text messages, people just, bombarding us, trying to trick us and fool us into giving up our personal information. We're going to talk about some of that coming up. So let's just jump in with what is identity theft? Well, it's the criminal use of your personal information to obtain money's good services. We know that they're after our money. I mean, you just have to look at your phone and see all those scam phone calls coming in, and we know they're trying to steal our money. But you also see on the list, somebody could use your name for employment, getting a job. They could use your personal information to fill out that I-9 paperwork on day one of a new job. Honestly, this could be happening, and we wouldn't know about it until the end of the year, January time, when W-2s start coming out. You can imagine how disconcerting that would be to receive a W-2 with your name and your social security number, but for a job you've never heard of. And now the real IRS is looking for tax money for the income from the previous year. Somebody could go to a hospital or clinic and try to fool that hospital or clinic into thinking that they're treating you, well, really they're treating this identity thief. And I don't want to sound too dramatic when it comes to medical identity theft, but this can have real life health consequences. Because of HIPAA, once somebody else's health history gets mixed into your health history, it can become incredibly difficult to separate that out. Well, now if you find yourself in an emergency situation and doctors are making decisions based on what's in your health history, well, if that's not accurate, you could easily see how that could be problematic. And government benefits. A lot has changed in the last year with all of our lives, right? But during the pandemic, identity thieves have really started to apply for government benefits in people's names. This is actually the new #1 form of identity theft in 2020. So somebody possibly applying for unemployment benefits in your name, a small business loan, paycheck protection loans, a lot of those government programs that are out there to help people during COVID. Unfortunately, the bad guys have tried to exploit those programs. And then my background, law enforcement. At the bottom of the list here, I can tell you as a prior police officer, you make a lot of contacts. You're always IDing people. Well, sometimes people lie to the police. And if somebody lies to maybe hide the fact that they have a warrant for their arrest or a suspended driver's license, in order to try to hide that, they might use somebody else's name. I mean, if they just make up a name, law enforcement knows how to deal with that. But if they were to use your name and somehow successfully fool that officer into thinking that they just stopped you instead of this other person, a speeding ticket or something like that could get filled out in your name and you didn't even know it. Well, now when that ticket doesn't get paid, you get a notice from the court that they're going to suspend your license or worse, issue a warrant for your arrest. So lots of different forms of identity theft. Some of these are much easier to recover from than others. So what do they want? What information are these identity thieves after? The short answer is everything. Everything you see on the screen. The real simple stuff from addresses and phone numbers to the super secret stuff, or what we should be keeping super secret. Date of birth, social security number, bank account numbers, things like that. If you take one takeaway from this slide, what they really want is your name in conjunction with your date of birth and your social security number. Those three pieces of information give an identity thief just about everything that they need to start trying to open up accounts in your name. That's why it's vitally important that we keep that information secure and private and out of the wrong hands. Once it's in the wrong hands, the problem is that the bad guys have it, and they always have it. That information doesn't change. Throughout the course of your life, you always have the same name, maybe a last name change with a marriage, but that stays pretty consistent. You always have the same date of birth, and you always have the same social security number. Even if you're the victim of identity theft, and we can show the Social Security Administration that you've been victimized and that we know this number is compromised and in the wrong hands, they will not issue you a new number. So that's why it's so important that we try to keep it out of the wrong hands in the first place. Just a breakdown here by age. Honestly, not a lot of good information on this slide. Anybody can be the victim of identity theft. Young, old, rich, poor, good credit, bad credit. I always like to say the identity thieves just don't discriminate. A lot of people think that this is just a crime that is perpetrated against our seniors, and certainly, you know, our seniors do fall victim to this. But as you can see on this slide, you know, between the ages of 20 to 59 is the vast majority of identity theft. But even under the age of 19, so even our children are susceptible to this. I can tell you, unfortunately, these numbers just tend to go up every year. Again, it's the fastest growing crime in the United States. Different types of identity theft. There's a big change here in 2020. The government documents and benefits fraud is the new number one. It's now more likely that somebody tries to apply for like unemployment or a business loan in your name than somebody just getting a hold of your credit card number and trying to make a fraudulent purchase. Government documents and benefits fraud was number 7 on the list in 2019, jumped all the way up to number 1, which clearly seems to be the result of COVID and all the government programs that are out there. Some other things on the list here. We talked about employment, identity theft, tax-related fraud. They may try to file fraudulent taxes in your name and steal your return. I've got some really good information at the end of how we can protect ourselves from that. So how does it happen? How do they get our information? Well, I just broke it down: low tech and high tech. Dumpster diving. If you're throwing away any pieces of paper that have that important information on it, they'll take it right out of the trash. Stolen mail. You know, if they see a red flag on the mailbox, they may steal whatever's in there and hope that there's envelopes and personal checks and account statements that have personal information on it. And then stolen wallets and phones. The biggest thing with your wallet, we just ask people not to carry their social security card around with them. There's very few times in your life you need that paper social security card. Maybe day one of a new job, opening up certain types of retirement accounts at the bank, but that type of stuff doesn't tend to happen every day. The fear is if your wallet ends up in the wrong hands, there's probably an ID card or a driver's license in there. And if there's also a social security card, that gives that identity thief everything that they need. And then stolen phones, smartphones. I've got a work phone here. I've got a personal phone. Those of us that carry smartphones, just think for a second, the information that we carry around with us. Access to our email, our text messaging, our all kinds of apps, shopping apps that might remember payment card information, mobile banking apps for paying bills and transferring money, and apps for our credit cards. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on and on. Just an incredible amount of information that's on our phone. So the biggest thing with phones is make sure that there's some kind of security on your phone. You know, do the fingerprints or the facial recognition, or at least have a code or a pattern that you have to swipe in, so that in case your phone falls into the wrong hands, somebody can't just push a button, swipe up on a screen, and have access to all of that information. And then there's the high-tech way that they get our information. Skimming devices at gas pumps and ATMs. We're going to talk about that on the next slide. Phishing scams. This is just a play on the word phishing, not the type of phishing I like to do. But these are those phone calls, emails, text messages that just seem to come in every day, where they're trying to, they're just casting out bait, hoping that somebody bites and that they can fool you into giving up personal information. We'll talk about that coming up. Data breaches, a frustrating way that our information gets out there. And then we'll, just before, to wrap up the doom and gloom, we'll talk a little bit about social networking and sites like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest. And then we'll get into the good information of what we can do to protect ourselves in all these different aspects. So skimming devices. Generally, the reports I've seen, this happens more at gas pumps, but it can also happen at an ATM. So a skimming device is a device that a criminal puts on a machine. It looks like a credit card reader. It looks just like the real machine, so that when you push your credit card or your debit card in to take out money or pay for gas, they're skimming that account number from the front of your card. They then come back later, retrieve those numbers, transfer that information to a fake, a plastic card with a mag stripe on it, and they effectively have a cloned copy of your credit card, your debit card. So before paying for gas or using an ATM, the recommendation is to kind of grab that credit card reader and give it a little wiggle and make sure it doesn't fall off. If it falls off, that's a really bad sign. Don't use that machine. Those are the external skimmers, though. Unfortunately, technology has gotten better, and now there's internal skimmers. These could be on machines and you really don't even know it. The bottom picture shows you a broken security label. That means that gas pump might have been tampered with. Not a good sign. The best recommendation is always go inside to pay for your gas, where you have to insert the chip on your credit card. That EMV chip is designed to help us get rid of skimmers. That's an encrypted transaction where you're not actually exposing your account number during that transaction. But with COVID, I hear from a lot of people that they'd prefer to just pay at the gas pump and not go inside. That's fine. If you do pay at the gas pump, it's recommended that you use a credit card and not a debit card. And here's why. So federal law gives you a lot more protection from the standpoint of identity theft with a credit card as opposed to a debit card. So federal law says that you have 60 days, 60 days from the date of your last statement to notice fraudulent charges, report them, and not be held financially responsible. That's a really long time. Conversely, with a debit card, depending on how, if your debit card, info falls into the wrong hands, depending on how the thief uses that info, it could be an electronic transfer of funds. You may only have 48 hours to notice those fraudulent charges, report them to the bank or the credit union, and not be held financially responsible. That's a big difference. With a debit card, obviously that's your money. That ties right back to a checking account, and now you're trying to recover your money from your financial institution. Where with a credit card, that's not your money even to begin with. That's the credit card company's money. So much easier to recover from somebody getting a hold of your credit card number as opposed to your debit number. So I always just recommend people have this conversation with your bank or your credit union. Go there and ask them, hey, what happens if somebody gets a hold of this information and makes a fraudulent charge? How much time do I have to report it? Are you going to reimburse the money? How much are you going to reimburse? Is there a limit? How long is it going to take to reimburse? Because even if you get your money back and it takes 15 days to get the money back, what if other bills are due and you've started to fall behind? So just good conversations to have ahead of time so you know where you stand with your financial institution. But yeah, always best to go inside and pay just to avoid the possibility of skimmers. All right, phone calls. If I could see all of you right now, I'm sure you're shaking your heads because we're all sick and tired of these scam phone calls. Just a couple of big picture things I want to address before we talk about this list. You can't trust caller ID. Caller ID, it's called spoofing. They can just put any number that they want on your caller ID. And they're all just tricks into getting you to answer the phone. So they can make it look like the local sheriff's department or police department or the American Red Cross or the Salvation Army or anything in between. But that doesn't mean that that's who's calling. That could just be fake. You can't trust caller ID. There's nothing sacred here. These individuals will pretend to be anybody at the other end of a phone to try to trick you into giving up your personal information. And we're going to go through a list here in just a second. The last thing I want to talk about is the do not call list in Wisconsin. So at the Bureau of Consumer Protection, we're the folks that administer the do not call list. And please, everybody stay on mute. Don't yell at me. I always hear that it doesn't work. Let me explain how the do not call list works, or what it's designed for. So the do not call list is for telemarketing phone calls. That's where a real business wants to call you up and sell you a product or a service. And businesses have to register with us at the state. They have to register every phone line that they're going to use to call Wisconsin consumers. And there's a mechanism where they can scrub their call list against the do not call list so that they don't accidentally call somebody who doesn't want a phone call. Are there violations of that? Absolutely. And we look into those and we investigate those. But we're going to talk about on this screen, these are not telemarketing phone calls. These are not real businesses calling you up and trying to sell you a product or a service. These are criminals. These are identity thieves and scammers, and they're just trying to steal your money, steal your personal information, or both. They like to pick on the government. They'll pretend to be from IRS, law enforcement, Social Security, tell you scary things that you owe back taxes, or your Social Security number has been involved in criminal activity in another state, and if you don't do something right now over the phone, there's always this sense of urgency. They're going to send law enforcement to your house and have you arrested, or send you to collections, and they're going to ruin your credit. And that's not how government would ever call you up over the phone. First of all, the federal agencies like IRS and Social Security, they will never initiate contact with you over the phone. If they have legitimate business with you, they send you a letter in the mail. So those calls are fake right away. Our recommendation with all of these is when you don't recognize the number that's on caller ID, don't answer, even if it's your own phone number that shows up on caller ID. If you look at it from the standpoint of the thieves in this case, step number one to get you to fall for a scam, they got to get you on the phone. So that's why they put stuff on caller ID and try to trick you into answering. If you don't recognize the number and don't answer, it's impossible to fall for the scam. Law enforcement, I can tell you as a prior law enforcement officer, I would call people up over the phone and interview people over the phone and follow up on cases and investigations. Never once would I tell somebody over the phone, though, that they had a warrant for their arrest. That's usually a face-to-face conversation law enforcement wants to have with somebody, right? But again, that's the type of scary stuff they're going to tell you, and then try to trick you into paying money over the phone in order to correct whatever made-up situation they're presenting you with. They'll pretend to be family and friends. In this category of scams are the sweetheart scams. I just saw something on the Today Show just the other day about this, where people meet each other online, and the other party never wants to meet with you in person. They profess their love for you almost immediately, and then they start trying to get you to launder money for them, or partake in criminal activity, and there's just or steal money from you, or they always have excuses of how they can't meet in person, and then they'll trick you into sending them money. Just horrible situations like that. Also in this category of scams are the grandparent scams. So they'll pretend to be a grandchild that's in distress, that's either been arrested or involved in a crash. Sometimes they pretend to be the grandchild on the phone. Sometimes they pretend to be a lawyer or a law enforcement officer on the phone that has the grandchild in custody. Again, nothing is sacred. They will pretend to be anybody to try to trick you out of your money or your info. Now, unfortunately, do grandkids sometimes not make the best decisions? Do sometimes they get involved in crashes or get arrested? It happens, right? I mean, you wouldn't want to hang up on a real family member that's in distress. So just a low-tech thing that you can do to protect yourself here is just create a family password, just something you and the immediate family members know. Don't post it on Facebook, keep this quiet. And if you ever got this call and just for a second you thought it was real, you could ask for the family password. And most likely what's going to happen is the identity thief will just immediately hang up on you. And if it's your real family member on the phone, they should know the family password and they can confirm their identity to you. You think it would be easy to just recognize a family member's voice on the phone, but these scammers are really, really good at what they do. particularly with the grandparent scam, it's always a crash that involves a broken nose, because then that's their excuse of why they don't sound the same. They literally have an answer for everything. So if you start engaging with them on the phone and start asking questions, before you know it, you might get talked into believing that this is real. Well, really, you're just talking to a thief. They'll pretend to be tech support. I just took a phone call on the consumer protection hotline yesterday from a lady that thought she was going to be charged $300 from Microsoft, and before she knew it, they were in her computer, and she has no idea what they were doing while they were remote access into her computer. And there's all kinds of bad things that they could do. They could install malware and ransomware, keylogger programs that'll steal usernames and passwords. So I recommended that she disconnect from the internet, take it to a trusted computer repair place, get it scanned right away, to make sure that none of those programs are there. If you've ever seen somebody else moving the mouse around on your screen, on your desktop, and you don't personally know who that person is, I'd say the same advice. Disconnect from the internet, take it to a trusted computer place, have your computer scanned to make sure that there's no malicious programs running in the background. All right, charities, it gets a little tricky. So charities are nonprofit. They don't have to follow the do not call list. So here you are, you're on the do not call list. Here comes an incoming phone call from a charity. Caller ID says it's from a charity. You answer the phone, they say they're from a charity. There's just no way to tell whether that's real or not. There's no way to tell the difference between real charities and fake charities or criminals when you receive the phone call. So my best advice, and really my only advice, never, ever, ever give money to a charity over the phone when you receive the phone call. Hang up, because at best, it's a 50-50 coin flip. You're talking to a thief instead of a real charity. Real charities will be happy that you hang up on them, and then you do your own homework. You find their real phone number, not the phone number they gave you, because the identity thieves will lie to you over the phone. Look up the real contact information for a charity you want to give money to. You initiate the call. It's the only way you know that your money is going to a charity and not into the pocket of a thief. And lastly, they'll just pretend to be debt collectors for made up fake phantom debt. Again, scare tactics. They're going to send you to collections and they're going to ruin your credit. You need to pay for this right now over the phone. This list goes on and on and on. They can be, we could be on this slide for a week, right? So these are just some of the more popular ones. Often they'll try to talk you into paying with gift cards or wiring money as opposed to credit card transactions, because it's much, much harder for law enforcement to track gift card numbers over the phone. And they're really, really crafty in how they do that. I just recently heard about a scam where they pretend to be We Energies on the phone. And they have this, not We Energies, that's another scam. It was AT&T, and they have a promotion going on right now with eBay, and they can lower your phone bill, but you have to prepay for the next 6 months. But it's a promotion through eBay. So they want you to go down to the store and buy eBay gift cards and give them the gift card numbers over the phone to qualify for this. They're crafty in how they do that. That's 100% a scam. That's not how AT&T or eBay is actually doing business. So you really have to be careful out there when you receive the phone call. And they don't just call us with live people. Sometimes they have computers call us with robocalls. I'm sure everybody here has gotten a phone call from Rachel from Cardholder Services, or you've got the medical brace calls, the auto warranty calls, the student loan calls. These all have a similar theme to them in the sense that it'll be a recording. Sometimes it goes right to your voicemail. And if you listen to the recording, they'll tell you whatever they're trying to pitch about, lowering interest rates on your credit cards or getting you out of your student loans. Press 1 to talk to a person. And if you do that, they'll put a person on the line with you and try to scam you out of something. But if you continue to listen to this message, it'll say press 2 or press star to end this call and be taken off this list, which is tempting because we all want these phone calls to end, right? Don't push any buttons on your phone, because if you push any buttons, all you do is confirm to the criminals that this phone number is active. It belongs to somebody who actually answers their phone, listens to what we have to say, and they must have believed that we were real because we got them to push a button. This is a lead generator for them. In essence, the criminals are trying to be more efficient in how they scam us. They don't want to waste their time calling numbers where people don't answer, numbers that are no longer in service, numbers that belong to business, government. So they're trying to find a pool of numbers of, here's the people who actually answer. Higher probability you're going to fall for a scam if you answer the phone. So then they sell your phone number to other criminals, and you're just going to get more and more and more scam phone calls. The best advice is don't answer in the first place. As soon as you do answer, if you hear that recording or that dead air before the computer picks up, just immediately hang up. They don't just call us, they send us emails. I know the words on this are kind of small, but this is not an email from Wells Fargo. This is just a fake. This is just a phishing email. So here's kind of how this works. And we have a good group of people here today. I think we have, how many people we got? 50 plus people in this group right now. So let's just pretend that they send this out to everybody who's listening to me right now. Well, all of us that are listening right now that don't have a Wells Fargo account, well, we know it's fake right away, and we would delete it and not even open it up and just move on with our lives. But they're hoping somebody in this group has Wells Fargo or Capital One or PayPal, or they usually pick on these big national brands. And let's just pretend that just yesterday you were trying to log into that account, or you were having trouble, you just had to change your password, or you just had a transaction in the previous week, and now all of a sudden this email comes through and it's like, oh, this must be related to that. That's how they catch you. They're just hoping that something clicks with somebody in this room that was just having an issue with their Wells Fargo account, and now you're like, oh my gosh, somebody's trying to log into my account, I better change my password again. And if you just make one mistake of trusting this communication and clicking on wellsfargo.com up in the upper right corner, or clicking on that login button, it takes you to a fake site that looks like the real thing. And before you know it, you're just handing over usernames and passwords. So here's what I would do. If I receive this email and I have a Wells Fargo account, I would ignore this email, even if I thought it was real, because I'm just not sure. I would go to the Wells Fargo card in my wallet, look at the number on the back of the card, and I would initiate the call. Or I would go to a web browser and I would type in the www.wellsfargo.com or whatever website it is, so that I know I'm going to the real company and I'm not getting tricked into talking to an identity thief or a scammer. So I think we covered this. You got to know who you're dealing with. You got to ask for information. Oh, you can ask for information in writing with charities. Real charities have to give you info in writing, but I don't even mess with this step, because it's easy enough to find a charity that's willing to take your money, a real charity. Just do your own research on that, and you initiate the contact. There is a good website out there called charitynavigator.org that has like every charity in the US. You can look them up, you can find their real information, you can see where the money goes, dollar for dollar breakdown. If you're looking for a charity, that's a good place to start. Red flags of a scam, a sense of urgency. Really bad things are going to happen if you don't take action right now. If you get one of these calls and you think it's real, as soon as the conversation turns towards money over the phone, especially money in the form of wiring money or gift cards over the phone or over the computer or through text messaging, just stop and take a step back and call us at the state. I'm going to put up our consumer protection hotline number at the end of this presentation. Monday through Friday, 7:45 to 4:30, you can get a hold of us. If you can't get a hold of us, call the bank, call law enforcement, call a family member, call a friend, just run it past somebody else. Because almost always when the conversation turns towards money over the phone, especially in the form of gift cards or wiring money, it's almost 100% a scam. And if it sounds too good to be true, like you just won Publishers Clearinghouse or some foreign lottery that you never even entered, I'm afraid to tell you that it is too good to be true. I talk to people too often on the hotline that have, they thought they won something, and they get talked into paying a shipping or a handling fee or getting something through customs, or there's another processing fee, and they just keep getting strung along, and they just keep losing money, more money after more money after more money, and it's all fake. There's no lottery winnings at the end. If you did actually win a lottery, you never have to pay money to get to your prize. I mean, if you're on the hook for taxes, they'll take the taxes out of your winnings and give you what's left over. But that's not how the scams work. They will talk you into trying to pay something up front. Otherwise, I think we covered this, not trusting caller ID, preferably not even answering if you don't recognize the number, and treat your personal information like cash, because that's what it's worth to the bad guys. So just, ask yourself the next time you download a new app on your phone and they want, all this personal information from you to open up a new account, is it worth it or not? Because the more often you hand out that information, the more likely it ends up in the wrong hands. Speaking of info ending up in the wrong hands, data breaches, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. There's just unfortunately been just so many high-level data breaches at this point. Just about everybody that's listening to me right now, you've probably been a part of one of these, at least, if not multiple data breaches in your life. Your information is probably out there. I'm not trying to scare people when I talk about the dark web. All of our information is probably out there on the dark web. It's a real place. It's the shady side of the internet where this information is bought and sold. We should be acting, even if it's not, we should be acting as if our information is exposed and taking steps to protect ourselves. And that's what I'm going to get into in here, just a couple slides as soon as we get through social media. I'll give you the good stuff, how to protect yourself. So thanks for bearing with me with all this bad information. All right, so Facebook, Snapchat, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, the list goes on and on and on of all these social media sites. I'm not here to say they're evil or anything like that. It's a great way to stay in touch with family and friends. And, we just want to be careful of how we share info online. So you'll see things like this on your news feeds, just too good to be true. Skip right over this stuff. There's no such thing as free gift cards for just filling out surveys. Set your accounts to private. Here's an actual public profile. And I know the words are small, but, publicly information, available info. You didn't even have to be friends with this person online. And you can see where they work, where they live, where they went to school, their phone number was listed, their birthday was listed, their email address was listed, or where they went to college. Basically, bad guys can go here, they can get almost everything they need. Then they just go to the dark web, they get the matching social security number, and they have almost a full picture of this person's identity. And then the other thing that you'll see on social media is those fun little surveys that come out from your friend, like, hey, this is fun, do this with me. And it'll be all these crazy questions, like, what was the name of the street you grew up on? What was the color of your first car? Or what is your special, holiday name or something like that? And it'll be, the first letter of your name, and then you find it, and then the date of birth, and you find it. And by posting those answers, you're giving up dates of birth, and you're giving up the answers to your security questions, so that if you need to recover an account, you forget a password, bad guys will go there and try to answer those questions and try to break into your accounts. And certainly don't make it this easy on them. This mom was very excited about her son getting his first credit card, so she snapped a picture of it and posted it online. True story, without the red lines. But this is a really old photo. If you look here really close, this was posted with a BlackBerry. I don't even know if they make BlackBerries anymore, but good food for thought that, if you post a picture online, how long does it stay online? It stays online forever. I mean, this photo is still floating around. I have it in my presentation. Even those photos on Snapchat where the kids think the photos disappear after 15 or 20 seconds, or after 24 hours when they post to a story on Instagram or Snapchat. No, I have friends in law enforcement that have issued subpoenas in online bullying cases, and they have all of those photos. They're out there on a server somewhere. If a picture is posted online, it never goes away. Okay, enough of the bad stuff, right? Let's get into some good stuff here, how to protect ourselves. And let's just start here, right here with social media. So keep your account set to private. Means that only your friends can see your information. But then on top of that, know who your friends are. If you just accept friend requests from everybody and anybody, it kind of defeats the purpose. Be careful what you post online. Just think about how it could be used by an identity thief if somebody, if the wrong person sees it. they get a lot of information for the grandparent scam on social media. They'll find out where the kids are going on spring break, summer vacation, winter breaks. You know, what beach are they going to? What hotel are they staying at? Are they flying? Are they driving? What dates are they going to be gone? Who are they traveling with? You know, all these little pieces of the itinerary. Then when they call up grandma and grandpa and they have that information and they can put it in their pitch, it makes it sound so much more believable, and it puts our family members at risk of falling victim to this. Be careful about posting specific locations or tagging yourself. Not necessarily ID theft related, but the you know, if you're on vacation, you're in New York City at the top of the Empire State Building, and you take a selfie and you tag yourself in it and you post it on social media, but you just told all of your social media friends that my house is empty. You know, people come back home from vacation and then find out that their house has been burglarized. You know, things like that. You know, think of it from that standpoint of if the wrong person sees this picture, am I giving my home address away? Am I letting somebody know I'm on vacation? You know, that sort of thing. With our phones, we talked about having your phone locked in case it falls into the wrong hands. Only download apps from trusted locations. So if you have an iPhone, you're pretty well protected because you can only go to the App Store because Apple is closed source. If you have an Android phone, stick to the major app stores like Google Play, Amazon App Store. Avoid going to like just a website where you have to type in the name of the website and then download an app right from a website. There's just so many fake apps out there that if you make one wrong mistake or one wrong keystroke error, you might end up at the wrong website and download a fake version of that app. And the last thing with phones is that the cameras on our phones, often the default setting is for something called geotagging. So if you take a photo, wherever you were standing when you took that photo, that location information might be embedded in that photo. Then if you share it online, you're giving location information as well. I'm not saying this is bad or evil. It's just I want people to understand what information they're sharing if they do decide to post photos online. With computers, look for HTTPS. The S is a good thing. That means that whatever website you're on is encrypted. But I don't want people to be fooled that just because it says HTTPS means that, you know, the internet police have vetted out this website. It's a real website. It's safe to do my online shopping on it. It just means that it's encrypted. Bad guys can have encrypted websites too. So, you know, best example I can give you is online shopping. So let's say you're searching around and you find the product that you want and it's a really good price. Maybe a little too good to be true price, but for sake of discussion, let's say you're interested in buying it. So you go to the website. Yes, the first thing you want to look for is HTTPS. So that means that if you do decide to send credit card information to this website, it's encrypted. Nobody else can see that transaction, but you're choosing to send it to this website. And we don't know if it's a real website yet or not, because it's one you've never done business with before. Do yourself a favor and type the name of that website into an internet search engine, and then add the word scam or fraud and hit search. See if there's a whole bunch of other people online that tried to buy something from that website as well and never got their products, or they were scammed, or they lost money. People like to complain about stuff online. So if that's the case, those are usually pretty easy to spot. You can also then see how old that website is. You know, a website that just popped up in the last 2 or 3 months, probably not as trustworthy as a online retailer that's been established for 5 or 10 years or more. So you can save yourself a lot of headaches by doing a little bit of research before you decide to buy something online. Other things with your computer, of course, make sure that your computer is updated. They almost always have security updates as part of those. Antivirus, malware, firewall protection. If you don't know what that means, you know, get with a family member or a friend that's real computer savvy and they can help you with that, or take it to a trusted computer repair place, make sure everything's protected. And then Wi-Fi. One of those documents that Mary said she's going to send out after this presentation, we have a fact sheet just on how to know if you're on secure Wi-Fi. So if you're out and about with your laptop or your phone and you decide, you know, you need to buy something online or you need to transfer some money with online banking, You only want to do those types of sensitive transactions if you're on a secure connection. If you're not sure it's secure, not the time to be doing sensitive stuff with your computer or your phone. So, and it's a longer discussion to know whether this is secure or not. That's why we produce a fact sheet on it, and you kind of read through that. The Cliff Notes version is, if you're not sure you're on a secure connection, turn the Wi-Fi off on your phone. Use your phone's data connection, that 4G or sometimes even 5G connection now. That's more secure than Wi-Fi. Otherwise, if you're not sure, wait until you're at home on your home network before you do those sensitive transactions. All right, remember the dumpster divers? Well, you can shred it before you throw it away. That's a simple thing that you can do to protect yourself. The people stealing your mail or stealing mail, take the important stuff or the sensitive stuff right to the post office or get a secure mailbox. It's an easy thing that you can do right away. Any of your online accounts, if they offer something called two-factor or multi-factor authentication, I recommend that you opt in for this. So let's pick on Amazon for a second. I know Amazon has this, and I know that they're popular. So probably a lot of people listening to me have an Amazon account. If you opt in for this, you're telling Amazon, hey, if you ever see me log in from a device that I've never logged in from before, a different computer or a different phone, take an extra step and make sure that that's actually me. And what Amazon will do is they send you a text message to your phone with a special code to complete that login. The idea is that if somebody steals your username and password on the other side of the world or the other side of the country and they try to log in from a computer or a phone, and Amazon doesn't, you obviously never logged in from that particular device, that'll prompt Amazon to send you a text message. So now all of a sudden you get a text message on your phone, somebody's trying to log into Amazon. Well, if it's not you, that your information's been compromised and it's time to change your password. But also the bad guy doesn't have access to that code that was just texted to you, so they're not able to complete the login process. I know that sounds kind of complicated, but it's actually pretty simple and pretty slick. And it's not very intrusive to us, because once you've logged in from a device, Amazon then recognizes it, or any of these companies recognize that as a trusted device. They know that's your phone or your laptop. The only time it really affects you is when you get a new device, then you're gonna have to do that, you're gonna have to verify it again. So anybody that offers this, take them up on it. You can sign up for something called e-Notifier for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. This is just an easy, free thing that you can sign up for. You get I think you get to choose. I think it's an email or a text message. Anytime there's a transaction on your DMV record. So if you go to the DMV and you wait in line and you change your address, or you print off a duplicate ID card, or you renew your license plates, well, you get an email or a text that that transaction went through. Great. If you get an email or a text that something just happened, especially somebody printing off or requesting a duplicate ID card or changing your address, and it wasn't you, you immediately in real time know somebody's up to no good, and you can start to put a stop to it. You can sign up for something called informed delivery from the Postal Service. This has been around since 2018. I have it. You get an email every morning I get mine at about 7:30 in the morning, and it actually shows you photographs of all of the pieces of mail that are going to show up to your house that day. Really, really handy thing to have. Even if where you live, you don't get your mail until well into the afternoon, right away in the morning, you know what's showing up. There's really important stuff showing up, to get it out of the mailbox right away. If when you get your mail, certain pieces are not there, maybe somebody's stealing your mail, maybe the post office delivered it to the wrong address, what pieces of mail are missing, and you can follow up on where that is. Handy thing that you can sign up for, and it's free. Passwords. I know I'm supposed to stand here or sit here in front of you and tell you that you need to have different passwords for every one of your 164 online accounts. How are you supposed to remember those, right? It's impossible. Look into password managers. There are password managers out there, these simple little computer programs that will not only create good, strong passwords for you, they keep them organized, they will autofill them for you on your devices, And I don't want to go into too much of the IT side of it, but they don't store the passwords up in the cloud, if you will. They're only stored locally on your device. So with a password manager, you only have to remember one master password. So you have a good, strong master password, and then your manager will remember everything else. Really, that's about the only way. Otherwise, I don't know how you remember that many different passwords without, writing them down in a book or having them, in a file on your computer, which is definitely not recommended. At a minimum, just make sure that anything that deals with money, online shopping, online banking, credit cards, retirement accounts, 401k, social security accounts, those all have to have different passwords. The fear is, if your password's been compromised, the bad guys are going to try it as many places as they can think. The more places it works, the more damage they can do. Most people I talk to know that they get credit reports or free credit reports, but they don't actually check them. Because of COVID, I believe this now goes through next April. The credit reporting agencies are letting you check your online credit report for free every week. So every week you can take a look at this. I recommend that you do it, especially if you haven't done it in a while. Look at all three, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And there's a fact sheet coming out to you that'll explain how to do all this. Look at it. You should recognize everything on your credit report. There shouldn't be anything on there that you don't recognize. If there is, it might be a fraudulent account. That'll be the time to file a complaint with us, and we can help you try to close that account down and get that off your record. And then, drum roll, please. This is the number one thing that you can do to protect yourself. Right side of the screen is freeze your credit. Hopefully, over the last 45 minutes or so, you've learned that your information might be out there through data breaches. It might be in the wrong hands. And there's a chance that eventually somebody will get to it and try to start doing bad things with it. Even if we know that your information is not in the wrong hands, I still would recommend that you freeze your credit. So here's what this means, and here's how this works. And there's a fact sheet coming out to you that'll explain all of this. When you freeze your credit, no one, including you, will be able to open up a new line of credit in your name. So if a bad guy has your name and your date of birth and your social security number and everything else, they will not be able to open up credit cards in your name. They won't be able to get payday cash loans, auto loans. It'll stop all of that. But you're probably asking yourself, well, what happens when I need my credit? What happens next time I want a new credit card or I want to buy a new car? You still, as the consumer, have access to your credit. So the credit reporting agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, will give you a way, it's like a PIN number, where you can temporarily lift that freeze. So when you need access to your credit, you can lift that freeze and open up this little window, do your legitimate transaction, get a proof of that new car loan, apply for that new credit card on Black Friday, and to get your savings at the store, whatever you want to do. And then once that's over with, refreeze your credit so that nobody else can try to open up lines of credit in your name. This doesn't affect any current lines of credit. So any current credit cards, auto loans, mortgages, anything like that. This is only to stop the bad guys from opening up new stuff in your name. Can't stress this enough. Everybody should do this. They recommend that parents coming home from the hospital with newborn babies freeze the credit of those babies and save that information for until 18 years later, when that child becomes an adult and now needs access to their credit. All right, I've only got about 2 slides left here for you. I think we're right on time. These are just warning signs that you might already be the victim of identity theft. And here's kind of where we come in. So if any of this happens, you start seeing unauthorized debit or credit charges, cards start showing up in the mail, you get notice that the post office is changing your address and you're not actually moving, you get a W-2 in your name for a job you've never heard of, you get that explanation of benefits from the hospital, and you look at it and it's not for a procedure that you had done. Of course, you get notice from the courts that they're going to suspend your driver's license, or because you didn't pay a ticket that you never received. All of these are red flags that somebody might be using your information criminally and committing identity theft against you. Identity theft is a Class H felony in Wisconsin, but we're not law enforcement. So we don't go after the bad guys. We don't have criminal arrest powers or anything like that. Law enforcement can go after the bad guys. What we do is we take identity theft complaints from consumers and we work between you and the financial institutions and the hospitals and the employers and whoever holds these fraudulent accounts or this fraudulent information. And we work between you and them to close that stuff down, get that off your credit report, stop the bill collectors from calling, help you try to recover any money that might be lost, and ultimately recover from identity theft. So in order to start our process, if you are the victim, we have a identity theft complaint packet. You can fill that out online at our website here, www.datcp.wi.gov, or call that 1-800 number that you also see on the screen. We can email you the complaint form. We can mail it out to you in the regular mail. And then, part of the identity theft complaint process requires a police report. So you want to get the police on the phone, get a report taken, and then there's a release of authorization form and a statement of non-consent, one of which needs to be notarized. So there's a lot of paperwork involved, but once you get that filed with us, we'll get that assigned to one of our investigators, and we'll get working on that and try to help you recover from whatever is going on. With that, just before I toss it back over to Mary, I just want to kind of plug our services at the state. Myself and Francesca Johnson are the two agency liaisons for the Bureau of Consumer Protection. Between the two of us, we cover the entire state of Wisconsin. We do identity theft presentations like this one. We also have presentations on landlord-tenant law, home improvement contracts, motor vehicle repair contracts, business identity theft, scams that target seniors. There's lots of different presentations that we do. So if you belong to a group or organization, either professionally or personally, and you think your group or organization could benefit from a presentation like this is all completely free. We can do virtual presentations, we can do in-person live presentations, and we try to get this information out to as many people as possible. So before I forget, I'm going to throw my email back into the chat, and it's up on the screen. Nope, my email is not up on the screen, but my name is. And feel free to reach out to me, and we can try to set that up. And with that, I saw the chat bubble kind of going. So if whoever's been monitoring that, if you can kind of help me figure out where we at for questions.
You bet. We've got a couple of questions, Jeff. Great presentation. The first question comes from Mary Bear. She is asking, is it worth paying the companies that claim they can investigate a person's information on the dark web and the internet?
Sure. So there's a lot of companies out there that offer like identity theft protection services and will tell you that they can scan the dark web and find your information if it's out there. Here's the thing when it comes to that is the best information that I've seen is that at best they can scan about 2 or 3% of the dark web. They don't have access to all of it. And even if they do find your information, they can't wipe it from the dark web. So they could just, I guess, verify that your information is out there. But even if they come back and say that your information's not out there, it might be on the other 97% that they weren't able to even get to. So when they come back and they say your information is out there or is not out there, the recommended course of action is still freeze your credit, check your credit reports, stay on top of online banking. It doesn't really change whether that's a positive or a negative, so I don't see a lot of value with that. There is a website out there called Have I Been Pawned? That I think you can put your information into and it'll let you know if it's out there or not. But again, like it's kind of, I don't see a lot of value with that because there's just a good chance that, the recommendation is the same, freeze your credit to protect yourself.
Great, thank you. Mary, is that good? Okay. And our second question comes from Martha Stanley. She's been hearing about scammers getting a hold of titles to real estate, residential properties, etc. Can you please comment on that?
Sure. So I've heard those commercials as well. I can tell you at the state, I'm not aware of any actual cases that we're dealing with like a title ID theft for houses. I'm not saying it's not real. It's just I'm sure that's an extremely rare form of identity theft. But I don't put anything past the bad guys. If they could, I'm sure they would try to steal your title from you. I just think that that's a much more difficult one. It's probably much more likely one of these other scenarios is going to happen first.
Okay, great, Jeff. Thank you. And then the only other question we had, just to verify that the Charity Navigator website was charitynavigator.com.
.org.
.org. Got it. Okay. And someone else popped it in there for us. So, okay, good. Fantastic. And those were the only 3 questions that came through.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me. And this was great. A lot of people.
Yeah. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. And thank you, Jeff. This was outstanding. There was so much great information, and I have 2 pages of notes for myself. So I'm hoping everyone else has benefited as much as I have. And as a reminder, we will be sending a follow-up email with additional information and some of the fact sheets that Jeff has talked about. So once again, on behalf of the ADRC of Waukesha County and the state of Wisconsin, I'd like to thank you for joining us today.
I see one more.
Thank you very much.
Yep. I see, Jeff, one more question about
everything's
helping
complete.
people with the service.
Yeah, so all of our services are completely free. So no cost to get us involved, whether it's an identity theft complaint or all the other consumer protection complaints that we handle: landlord, tenant, home improvement contracts, motor vehicle repair, medical billing, telecommunications. The list goes on and on, where we help out consumers. And we don't charge a thing.
And it looks like there was one more question, and I'm going to have to ask Jane Dwyer to unmute, because I did not see your question come through. I apologize if I missed it.
One more about gas pumps.
Hi, I'm Jane Dwyer. I work in the DA's office, and my question was way early. I wondered if my gas pump, I believe it has a chip reader, and I wondered if the skimmers can replicate the chip reader on a gas pump, or if that makes it any more safe or less safe.
So I do believe that I see your question now. I do believe that makes it more secure. So I have seen some gas pumps where you can do the contactless pay, where you can just like tap the credit card if you have that RFID chip in your credit card, or pay with a watch or things like that, or the ones that do have the chip reader, where you insert your card and you hear that little click and it like locks your card in place while it's reading the chip. Those should all be encrypted transactions, so that should help protect against skimmers. Although that being said, I just never put anything past the bad guys. Like eventually I just feel that their technology is going to catch up and they're going to figure out a way to exploit that. But that's certainly better than when you insert the card and pull it out and it's just reading that mag stripe on the back side of the card.
Right. Thanks.
Great, Jane. Thanks for catching that. And I think that's great. There's wonderful comments in the chat to you as well, Jeff. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.